Hey everybody, Jam Creates here. I'm driving home from work again, recording another video. Still sick, but it's all good. Fighting through it. Made it through another day of work. I still have my voice, which is amazing, considering how much talking I had to do at work today. But that's it. I'm done with that. So moving on. My topic of today's video is something that is very relevant to this channel, and that is the topic of momentum in creative enterprises. Momentum when you're doing something creative can be really tough to keep going. It's very easy to get stuck, and what I mean by that is, for example, let's talk about this channel, this YouTube channel. I'm going to use this as an example right now. I have been doing a video every day. I don't even know for how long now, but I've been posting a new video every day for at least a couple of months, and it's good. I'm having some growth. It's been slow going, and that's fine. Some videos obviously do better than others, and I'm always just kind of mixing things up and doing what I do, and trying to find what you guys like, what you don't like. So there's that. But one of the interesting trends I've found is my views going up and down, and the ones that I think are going to do really well end up not doing all that great, and then the ones that I think are just like, okay, they're whatever, that's fine, end up doing really well. It's just interesting. Also the just the difference between BitChute and YouTube and my views on both those platforms, I still find very interesting. BitChute, I have way more views, and it's such a smaller platform. This is interesting. But anyway, talking about momentum. So like I said, I've been doing videos every day, and posting a new video every day, and sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes maybe I don't necessarily have a specific topic in mind and I have to figure something out. Sometimes a topic just hits you and it's like, boom, I gotta talk about this. And then there's other things I have planned, things like comic book reviews and things like that. And there'll be some more comic book reviews coming. I've got some more comics on the way. I'd like to do another webcomic spotlight. It's something I did one of and have been meaning to get back to, and just have not gotten back to it since then. But I would like to get back to that and do a couple more of those, because there are some webcomics I do enjoy, and I really don't see a whole lot of talk about webcomics, honestly, and I find it interesting. I also, anyway, my point being, I've been posting the videos. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. I took a few days off because I was sick as a dog. So I planned on doing, maybe a bunch of videos over the weekend, and, recording some that are kind of timeless so I could just post them whenever in the middle of the week. And I was so sick over the weekend, and my daughter was sick too. So any of you parents out there, when your kid is sick, that kind of takes over your life. And then when you get sick on top of it, well, that just makes everything worse. And so that's kind of where I was at. Over the weekend, I was very sick. I went to the doctor on Sunday and then went back to work on Monday. And, between being sick and going to work and everything else, and my throat was hurting me, which, talking is a pretty important part of these videos. So, if you can't talk, that's kind of a problem. And my throat was really bad, and so I wasn't doing any videos for a few days. So I don't think I did one Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, or Tuesday. No, I did do one yesterday. So maybe it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever it was. It was a few days where I didn't record a video and I didn't post a video. And I know, like, the cardinal rule of having a successful YouTube channel is you've got to constantly be posting new stuff, at least one new video every day. So, you know, while it was bothering me not to be able to post anything, at the same time, I needed the rest because I was sick. But then an interesting thing happens. You start to, and this happens with a lot of things, I know this happens to a lot of people, when you stop doing something, you know, think of it like when you're a kid at school and you go on vacation, whether it's Christmas vacation or spring break or summer vacation. When it's time to go back to school, you're like, oh, I can't do this. No, I can't go back to school. This is terrible. Like, you feel like it's the worst thing in the world. And you just don't want to do it. And it's funny because I had a topic that I really wanted to talk about, which was the whole Shonen Jump announcement. And I really wanted to talk about it right away, and I just couldn't until yesterday. And, you know, it's funny because then even today I was struggling with, well, what am I going to talk about? You know, and it's the momentum. I realize it's something that happens very often in a lot of creative endeavors. I don't know if you've ever written anything, you know, if you're out there, writing, drawing, creating anything really, you know, that takes more than 5 minutes to do, you know, it requires dedication, and it requires, you know, hard work, and it requires you to constantly put in the effort. And that's why I have so much respect for people who can do that on their own. I mean, I look at you want a really incredible example. Look at something like, in the video game world, look at something like Dust and Elysian Tale. Like, that whole game was made by one dude. He made the entire thing. And if I'm not mistaken, Stardew Valley was made entirely by one guy. And that had to take years to make. And, you know, it's amazing that they were able to keep the momentum going. You know, when you get a new idea, any creative person out there will tell you, when you get a new idea, that new idea is so exciting, you can't wait to dive into it and start doing it. The problem comes when either you realize, well, I need to do a lot of work before I can begin this in earnest. You know, if it's writing a story, you know, you need to have an outline for your story. You need to have to figure out your characters. You need to figure out details and stuff before you start writing. You know, you need a skeleton of a story to build on, and you might just have one really cool idea and you're super excited about it. But then as you start to do the hard work of actually defining things and putting things together and building the foundation, a lot of people lose momentum right then and there, and it's just gone. And sometimes, I know for myself and for a lot of other creative people, while you're doing that, you wind up with another idea, and then you get so excited by that new idea that you drop the old one and you want to start working on the new one. And then the same thing happens and a pattern emerges, and you start just constantly dropping ideas for the new shiny idea, and you never actually finish anything. And that's a real problem for a lot of people who are creative. It's very difficult. And then you get some others who maybe get further along in the process, and they get through all that stuff and they start the act of in earnest creating something. But then it becomes a grind. I mean, you've got to grind through. If you're drawing a comic book, you've got to draw every one of those pages. You got to draw every panel on every one of those pages. And it takes time. And it takes effort. And sometimes a page or a panel is just not coming together, and you've got to redo it. And you might have to redo it 2 or 3 times in some cases. And you really, like, you know, things just are changing. And then maybe halfway through you realize the story beat doesn't quite work, and now you've got to rewrite and then redraw. It's a whole, you know, it's a process, and it's hard. It's very hard to keep the momentum going, because honestly, that's not the exciting part. You know, the surface level exciting stuff is the announcement of is the conception of a new project, and then maybe the announcement of the project, and then of course releasing the project is the biggest, the biggest, of course. But most people don't get to that point because it's hard. I wrote a book I don't know if I'll ever release it or not, but I just wanted to do it, so I just did it. I did it was years ago, and I'm not one to write a lot of novels or things like that, but it was an idea I had, and I wrote it, and I sat down and I did it, and it was finished, and it is finished, and a couple of people have read it and they've enjoyed it, and so maybe at some point I'll release it to the public. I don't know what my plans are for that, if any, but I really didn't do it to release it. I just did it for myself. I just did it because I wanted to do it. And I'll tell you what, during the course of writing that, there were times when I really didn't want to write. I wasn't feeling the urge and the excitement, but I knew if I stop for any length of time, that's just going to be an unfinished story. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to be finished. So I would force myself to just work through it and keep writing. And I did. And eventually that ended in a finished story. And, whatever, you might like it, you might hate it, you might think it's silly or whatever, and that's fine. I don't really care. I didn't, again, at the time, I wrote it just for me. And it's a sci-fi story. It's a sci-fi action adventure story. It's not anything that's going to be compared to Hemingway or Shakespeare or anything like that. But it's fun. Maybe I'll release it at some point. But I was always very proud of the fact that I did it and I finished it. And that was a very proud feeling to do that. So I have a lot of respect for people who finish projects. That's probably the hardest thing to do, is to finish a project. And it's because of that momentum. The momentum drains. It does. Momentum goes away and it becomes hard to get back once it's stopped. And so I'd really be curious to know, it's a time like this when I wish I could have some guests on my show and that kind of thing. And maybe at some point I'll try to do that. It's hard just with my work schedule and whatnot. I tend to go to bed fairly early, and especially now when I'm not feeling well. But if I did have some guests on, I would love to hear from guests who've completed multiple projects, and especially multiple big projects, and how they get through that. How do they focus and get through that time of when it becomes a grind and it's not super exciting and shiny and new anymore? Now it's just, I've got to get the work done. So I would love to talk to some old pros and see how they handle that. How do they do that? There was an interesting thread on Twitter the other day where somebody was talking about self-doubt as an artist, and what do you do when it feels like you're drawing pages and they just don't feel right? You're just not in the zone. You're not feeling yourself as you're drawing. You feel like you're really struggling to draw every page. And it was interesting to see the diversity of answers that you got. Some people saying, just keep drawing, just push on through it, keep doing it, and the next day, if you look at it and you think this is garbage, then you know what? Then redraw it. But at least you did the work, and and if it turned out good, great. I saw other people say, step away for a little bit, do something else, and then come back to it. And there's definitely validity to both those methods. It's really just going to be a personal what works for you. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are doing these things in their spare time. There's a lot of part-time novelists and part-time comic book creators out there who are, they're working full-time jobs and then they're creating comic books in their spare time or writing novels in their spare time. So it's pretty much just, go to work, get home from work, maybe have dinner and see their family, and then the family goes to bed, and then they get cracking on their other project until late into the night, and then get a few hours of sleep, get up in the morning and do it all over again. And it's tough. If you're somebody who has the ability to just be creating full time all the time, I'm sure there are different methods that you would use for creating these things and for getting through that, getting over those humps and keeping the momentum going. But when you're someone who is doing it in their spare time, that's a whole different ballgame. You're trying to balance, for a lot of people, you're trying to balance work, family, and expressing your creativity in these projects. And I really would be interested to see how people who've done that have been able to do that successfully and navigate that world, because navigating those waters has got to be difficult. I mean, when you're working full time and you're trying to take on a project of, creating a comic book, or, making a short film, or writing a novel, or whatever it might be that, that you're into, that you're trying to do, or make a video game, whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's hard. It's very hard, because you see everybody around you is, for the most part, most people are going to work, coming home, and then maybe spending some time with their family, and then what are they doing? They're watching TV, and then they're going to sleep, and that's fine. I don't, that's a fine thing to do. I don't care. Like, you do what's right for you. But if you're trying to also, on top of all that, be creative, you kind of have to start dropping things out. And that's what I've done, is I've kind of dropped TV from my routine, which is funny because I do reviews of Last Man Standing, because honestly, it's the only TV show I go out of my way to watch. Anything else I just don't. Like, my wife was really, getting on me because she wanted me to watch the new season of American Horror Story with her, and I've seen almost every season of that show, and we watched it together, but I couldn't do it this time. I just didn't feel right. I didn't feel right dedicating an hour every week, and especially since I was behind, it would be like, well, let's catch up. So that would be like, maybe we watch like 2 episodes and 3 episodes in a night or something, and I feel like that's 2 or 3 hours that I could be spending working on my art skills, practicing my drawing. I mean, if you see the stuff I post on Twitter, I'm practicing a lot. I'm doing a lot of practice stuff. That's kind of why I haven't really posted any drawing videos, because I feel weird posting a drawing video of me just practicing stuff. If that's something you're interested in seeing, then I'll certainly do that. Just let me know. Maybe you want to practice along with me or something. I think that would be cool. I mean, that's definitely something I've thought about doing with the channel, is kind of like practicing on my own, and if possible, having maybe doing a live stream where I could get some established pros to kind of like chime in and watch me draw. And, if they want to draw along with me, that would be fine, of course. But maybe watch me draw and give me advice on what I'm doing and what could be done better and how I could do things differently, and see how that goes. Because I feel like people watching me do that could be doing the same thing along at home, and they would be learning as well. So I don't know, if you think that's something that sounds interesting to you, let me know. I would certainly look into it. I bet I'd have to bother some pros and see if I could get them to come on, but I would certainly give it a shot if that's something you guys are interested in. I am about to go pick up dinner, so I'm gonna go. If you like this video, and I don't know why you would, but if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, hit subscribe so you can see all my wonderful, wonderful videos. Jingle that bell for notifications so you never miss out on an upload, or at least in theory. Of course, YouTube has its own issues. But that's it for now. Let me know what you think. Tell me in the comments what type of videos you want to see, or do you think that like sort of learning along with me and drawing would be a helpful thing for people. I would never claim to be an expert to teach you how to draw, I think, but we could certainly learn together. Let me know what you think. Any of these ideas, let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm at jam_creates. And I'll be back again tomorrow with something else. And that's it. I will talk to you soon. Happy holidays to everyone. And that's it. I am out. I'm ouch. Yes, I'm ouch. No, that's it. Peace out. I'll see you soon.